So I have these 5 or 6 rules or ways of eating called Ketotarianisms. There's keeping your carbs low, keeping your healthy fats high. When you have a non-starchy vegetable, add a healthy fat. When you have a healthy fat, add a non-starchy vegetable. Eat when you're hungry, eat until you're satiated. Most people reading Ketotarian, if they do those rules and use the recipes and the meal plans in the book, they're going to be in ketosis. They're going to get the fat burning, the anti-inflammatory, the pro-antioxidant benefits of ketosis just by doing that. Now, I also realize that's not everybody. So we may have to adjust some things where people need to hone in and tweak it a bit more than that. So we have like the advanced track for that, where they can, if they want to track their macros, they can do that. And maybe they are more carb sensitive than other people and they need to decrease their carbs a little bit more and bring their healthy fats up a bit more. Maybe they need to lean into intermittent fasting or time restricted feeding. And I teach how to do that in Ketotarian. So I think start off simple. And then if you need to tweak it a bit more based on your own bio individuality, then you can do so.
I love that. I learned that in the Integrative School of Nutrition, and I'm a big believer in it because what works for me may not be working for somebody else because there's just so many factors that come into it. And in your book, you're talking about like Ketotarian, Pescatarian. Can we do a little of both then? I could have some fish. And
oh, yeah. That's why on the cover of Ketotarian, it says the mostly, in parentheses, plant-based plan to burn fat, crush cravings, and, lower inflammation, all that stuff. It's the term, like I was very clear on the cover that it was mostly plant-based because plant-based is a funny definition, right? I mean, I think of plant-based as being mostly plants. It's plant-based, but it's not entire plants. But some people in the vegan community and the vegetarian community consider plant-based to be only the vegan diet. I don't think of it as that, but I was erring on the side of transparency, that saying mostly plant-based would be very clear that we are giving many vegan keto options. Like majority of the recipes are vegan keto, but there is vegetarian keto options and pescatarian keto options. So I bring up the conversation and showing the science of the bioavailability of certain nutrients to say, hey, are you open to the vegan? I'm speaking to the vegan here. Are you open to bringing in some eggs? Are you open to bringing in some fish, but still being predominantly plant-centric? So yeah, that's how I would advocate it. That's how that I eat it. But I realize that some people, for ethical reasons or religious reasons or whatever reasons, they don't want to have any fish. They don't have any eggs. So I wanted them to teach them the best way to go vegan, in my opinion, would be to do the vegan keto options in Ketotarian.
And I love that because I'm going to call you a Unitarian. You're unifying everybody.
Yeah.
And I know it can be an emotional topic. I had a guest, Alexandria Jameson, that she did that whole McDonald's movie, was part of it, where they were supersizing. She was totally vegetarian, but she was craving meat sometimes. And her following, when they found out that she was craving meat and eating meat secretly, sometimes she just wanted it. She lost half of them overnight. So I think it's better to just bring us all to the table to have a discussion about what our different needs are, versus feeling like we have to be secretive that maybe we want some fish or some eggs.
Yeah, totally. I've heard a lot of that happening in the vegan world. Like I actually reached out to one of them, what was her name? Ravana, I think was her name. And she was one of the big vegan influencers, and she got vilified for like having fish in a restaurant. I gave her a copy of Ketotarian to let her know my journey on that. And that does no good. These sort of food wars. What I try to do in both of the books is to educate people on how to find food peace and to quit fighting over food.
Right.
This is crazy that people are debating so nasty about food. It's like, let's come together. Let's be positive. Let's realize what we have in common. And if something's working for you, great. Like if it's making your labs look great, if you enjoy the foods you're having, really what's the big problem here. As long as we're eating sustainably, eating consciously, eating like responsibly. I mean, there's so many ways to get meat and get fish that's sustainably sourced. Restorative farming is doing amazing efforts to really preserve our earth and be good stewards of the planet in ways that I would say, when you talk about restorative farming, that are doing way better than the sort of mass factory farmed vegan options. I mean, look at the amount of destruction that the factory farming is having as far as the genetic modification of corn and soy and the mass produce of these plant-based, and then the shipping of these foods around the world, the fossil fuel that takes. Going to a local farmer that's doing restorative farming for some grass-fed beef is actually good for the planet, and I would argue good for someone's health, but you still can be predominantly plant-centric too.
I love that, being all inclusive and, just trying to find solutions. And also, I think when you're more inclusive, you're bringing more people to the table and having a conversation around health, which is what we really need.
Totally. Yeah. People don't need food wars anymore. And I think that we get sometimes caught up in these small details and realize that this is just stressing people out and overwhelming the layperson and the common person that's not in the wellness world. They're like, what the heck should I eat? Because all of these conflicting sides to it. And Dr. Google, being this sort of fickle, endless vortex of conflicting information, is not doing people good. And I think it's sometimes hard to go past that confusion and actually find out what's right for you, which is why I wrote The Inflammation Spectrum, my second book, is to kind of cut through that food confusion to find out what your body loves and what your body hates.
I love that. I love that. And you're so right about Dr. Google. I know I do Google a lot of things so I can kind of research subjects. And I told my mom recently to just look at contact Dr. Google, and she's 80, and she literally thought that there was a doctor named Dr. Google. It was so cute. And I was like, no, Mom, no. Let me lead you in the direction of what I was trying to say. But
yeah, that's funny.
Yeah. And so cute. But I am bringing her up to speed on some of these things that we're talking about today. And one of them is inflammation. This is serious, and I think it's kind of like a silent killer. How can we recognize the signs of inflammation and being inflamed?
Yeah. So inflammation is definitely that common link between almost every health problem we face as a world today. So you look at things like diabetes, heart disease, cancer, autoimmune conditions, to things that don't seem inflammatory, like anxiety and depression and brain fog, fatigue. The studies suggest that they have an inflammatory component, or full-blown inflammatory conditions in some cases too. So it is that commonality, and we need to talk about it. So it's both sides of the coin. From a functional medicine terminology standpoint, it's something's upstream to inflammation, something's driving it. But then because the body's so brilliantly interconnected, inflammation in one area will create inflammatory patterns and dysfunctions in the other areas of the body. So it's definitely something that needs to be talked about. I think people should kind of ask the question, where is my health? What's going on? And kind of take an inventory. And that's why I put the inflammation spectrum quiz in the book, so people can ask themselves. And the questions are all questions that I ask patients. So they're just adapted from functional medicine principles and concepts to get to the root cause of why they feel the way they do. We actually have the quiz on our website. If people don't want to necessarily get the book right away, they can just take the quiz for free. It's at drwillcole.com. And they could take the inflammation spectrum quiz, and we go through the systems of the body. And another word for functional medicine is systems medicine. So we're going through the systems like the hormones and the brain and the digestion and the musculoskeletal system and the detox system, and kind of seeing, where am I at on the inflammation spectrum? Is it mild? Is it severe? What areas are the most problematic? And we're raising questions that maybe people don't even think of as being problematic, but they are like check engine lights, and they're signs that something is going on underneath the hood that's misfiring, dysfunctional. And that's what inflammation is. It's out of balance. Just like with a car that's not working right, the check engine light comes on, you don't just cover up the check engine light and keep on driving. Let's hope not.